Here before 6 p.m. Mountain Time. I'm just going to double check to make sure that everything is going on YouTube. It looks like, yeah, volume is working. Excellent, 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 excellent. I have to apologize for the lighting. I am at my husband's office, just next door to our house. There is an epic game of throw burrito going on at my house. I don't know if anyone's ever played throw burrito, but my kids and my husband are playing throw burrito, and I was like, I cannot do the webinar in our house. So I've retreated to my husband's office, and I might just hang out here all evening. I don't even know. But tonight we are going to talk about hiking safety. If you are here for a workshop on hiking safety for women, you're in the right place. And I'm so excited that you're going to spend this time with me. I hate it when I sign up for a webinar or a workshop and it just turns into a sales pitch. So I'm going to steal a line from Alex Hermosi. I have nothing to sell you. I'm not going to try to pitch you an online course at the end of this. All we're going to do is spend the next few minutes talking about hiking safety. This is a topic that is near and dear to my heart, and I'm excited to share the next few minutes with you. I'll go ahead. I'm going to fire up some slides here so you don't have to keep looking at my face. As I mentioned before, the title of tonight's workshop is Hiking Safety for Women. So I'm going to talk about a few strategies for safety. We're going to talk risk assessment. We're going to talk risk management. We're going to talk about dealing with negative people. And then I'm going to share a few upcoming events that we have here at Hike Like a Woman. And then I'm going to open it up for discussion. I was really amazed at the feedback that I got. Over 300 people registered for tonight's workshop. So that is very cool. I am monitoring the comments in the chat here. I probably won't respond to those immediately, but I will get to them at the end of the discussion. So I'm probably not going to interrupt the workshop to answer questions, but I will get to those at the end. And let's continue on. Okay, so in tonight's workshop, I am going to share with you a few ideas on how you can implement your own risk management strategies into your next hiking trip, camping trip, backpacking trip, whatever. And my goal at Hike Like a Woman is to help women explore the backcountry with confidence. That is why I exist. That is why I do what I do. And if I can just share a few things that might help you out, then it's worth it to me. I also recognize that in this conversation tonight, we have women here who are all at different levels of comfort in the backcountry. So I want to just be aware of that we're all coming at this from a different place, different backgrounds, different situations. And I will also say that hiking to me and backpacking and camping and all of these things, this is more art than science. And so I'm always skeptical when someone's like, this is the only way to do something, because there are a lot of ways to go on a hike. And so I want to acknowledge that hiking is more art than science, and there's a lot of shades of gray. And that's where we are headed. I'm going to take, I don't know, probably 45 minutes tonight, maybe an hour. We'll see. My absolute cutoff time is 7 p.m. So we'll go through the lesson material and then I'll answer your questions. Okay, so several years ago, I did a survey. And in the survey, I asked our community here, over 100,000 women strong, I asked, what's keeping you off the trails? Like, what is it that is keeping you off the trails? And I was really surprised with the big three responses. The first response was women were saying that they were a little bit uncertain about encountering wild animals, everything from snakes to bears, mountain lions, even insects, bugs, ticks. The next thing that our community said was keeping them off the trails was the fear of getting lost. And I think that's a very real fear. And the third thing that people mentioned was people, that women are scared to hike because of other potentially dangerous human interactions. And I just found this really fascinating. So as we go through tonight's conversation, I just want you to think a little bit. Maybe jot down in your journal or your notebook here. What's keeping you off the trails? What's something that makes you a little bit nervous when you head into the backcountry? And I hate to start this with a negative, but I think we need to start with a negative to get to a positive because we are going to end on such a positive note. So let's keep on going. This workshop is for you. You are in the right room if you maybe want to hike more, but sometimes you doubt yourself and your abilities. Maybe you are here because you feel a little nervous thinking about all the what ifs out there and you aren't sure how to prepare for the unexpected and for the unknown. Maybe you're here just because you want to talk about how you're feeling in a safe place with women who feel the same way. I would say that YouTube is probably not an incredibly safe space, but I do want you to know that you can always reach out to me at hikelikeawoman@gmail.com. Shoot me a DM over on Instagram or Facebook. Um, because I'm here for you and I'm here to help you and to support you and to encourage you to get outside and into the backcountry. So this is a safe space. Our community is a safe space. And I want to acknowledge that. Or maybe you're here just because you love outdoor education. I love outdoor education. I love learning from other hikers and other backpackers. Um, and I'm a huge fan of outdoor education. In fact, I believe that outdoor education and experience are the two things that lead to confidence in the backcountry. So we take what we learn in places like this, and then we go out and we try it and we test it. And the more we get out and experiment with what we're learning, the more confident we're going to be on our next hike. And I think that's a beautiful thing. So which one are you? Do you tend to doubt yourself? Maybe you get a little nervous. Maybe you want to share how you feel in this safe space. Maybe you love outdoor education, all of those things. Go ahead and drop a note if you can in the comments. I do have the comments locked down pretty solid. You might not be able to leave a comment, but if you can, let me know. Let me know where you fit on this spectrum, or maybe it's one or two things, or maybe it's none of those things, but this is a great time to chat about that. So, for those of you who might be new to Hike Like a Woman, I want you to know that my name is Rebecca Walsh. I started Hike Like a Woman in 2000 and I think 2015. Um, and it started off as a mommy blog, and we have grown since then. And I want you to know that I'm like you. Sometimes I doubt myself. Sometimes I feel nervous and unprepared in the backcountry, even as a guide. Sometimes I feel nervous and unprepared. And I also feel like I need the support of other women. And I love outdoor education. And where I really became passionate about this was in 2015. There was a website, and the website was called Give It 100. And the goal with Give It 100 was you were supposed to like hop on and do something consecutively for 100 days. So some people were doing like 5 push-ups every day for 100 days. Some people were practicing a musical instrument every day for 500 days or for 100 days. And I decided that I was going to go hiking every day for 100 days. So for 100 days, I went hiking with my children. I had a baby who learned to walk during that time, and I had a toddler. And I was and I was determined to figure out how to hike with a new baby and a toddler. And so during those 100 days of hiking is really when I learned a lot about myself and about hiking. So I learned during those 100 days, my children were happy and healthy because we were getting outside and hiking every single day. And I was in that new mom stage where I was just exhausted. But the more I got outside with my family, with my children, the more I felt like motherhood wasn't wearing me out. Like a trip to the grocery store wasn't exhausting because I had just climbed a big mountain with my kids. My house stayed clean and tidy, which was an added bonus of hiking every day for 100 days. And then as a family, my husband and I, we became really good at hiking and developing systems and processes to help us get out the door. And what happened throughout this 100 days is I started to become bold and I started to become confident and I started to really learn. Um, I started to learn this word called courage, right? Um, and it's not that I was a scared hiker before, but it was different with a baby and a toddler, and I started to become brave. And I think that when we go hiking, especially as women and women with children, sometimes it's hard to feel brave. And it's okay to feel scared. It's okay to feel nervous. And fear is a human emotion. But my goal is to like do it anyway. So if we're a little bit scared, develop the skills so that we can do it anyway. And here's what we are going to talk about tonight. So here's where we're headed. We are going to talk about how to assess risk before we even start our hike. We're going to talk about a few things that I keep in my backpack that keep me safe. Some of the things that I keep might surprise you. We are going to share some safety tips and we're going to talk about what to do when we're scared. And then we'll open this up to a group discussion. I can see some of you in the chat here. It looks like, wow, so many great comments already. Yeah, some people get lost easily, even in the city, getting older, worrying about creeps. Yeah, these are all very, very real things that we are going to talk about. Horrible sense of direction. I get a lot nervous. Yeah. Make sure you're prepared with the right equipment. Excellent. Excellent. Okay, so this is where we are headed. Let's dive right in. I want to talk about the word risk because when I tell people how much I get outside, a lot of times people say things like, "Oh, that's so risky." And I think when we look at the definition of the word risk, what we see here is the possibility of loss or injury or someone or something that creates or suggests a hazard. And the word that I really want to focus in on here is the word possibility. So, possibility means it might happen, it could happen, maybe it'll happen. It's not a guarantee. And I've learned to really embrace the word possibility lately. I was in treatment for breast cancer last year, and I have an increased risk of breast cancer returning. There is a possibility that my breast cancer is going to come back and make me really, really sick. But if I lived my life thinking about this possibility of cancer returning, it would almost be paralyzing to the point where I wouldn't be able to do the things I would enjoy because I would just be so scared of that possibility. And I think when it comes to the outdoors, that's a good way to think about it too. Possibility is not a guarantee, and anything we do in life is risky. And sometimes I feel like I take more risk when I pull into the Walmart parking lot at 5 p.m. on a Saturday evening than I do when I hike in the backcountry. And I think the more we hike, the more we'll be comfortable in that air in the backcountry, and it won't feel as risky. One of the things that I do to help mitigate risk on a hike is I always have a trip plan. I think a trip plan is probably one of the most important things that we can do as hikers. So in the trip plan, these are 10 questions that I ask myself before every hike. I ask, why am I going on this hike? Where am I going? Who am I going with? What's our goal? What's our schedule? What's the forecast? What do I wear? What do I need to pack? How will we stay safe? And who else needs to know our plan? And I think you can either grab a screenshot of this trip plan or you can send me an email. I'll send you a PDF copy of it. But having a plan helps me feel more prepared. And the one part of the plan that I really want to emphasize right here is that very last question to ask yourself before hike, that number 10, who else needs to know our plan? Um, and one thing that's important with who else needs to know our plan is making sure that the person who knows our plan is someone who we are comfortable with. So when I was single, I would always write out my trip plan and leave it on my kitchen table. And then I would send a picture of it to my parents so they would know what my plan was. Some other people have recommended sticking your trip plan underneath the seat of your vehicle at the trailhead. I'm not really sure why, but I think so. Search and rescue, if they see, or if law enforcement sees your vehicle there for a long time, then they'll be able to find your trip plan. But it's good to think about all of those things. And I am wondering in the chat right now if anyone here uses a trip plan. And if you use a trip plan, is there anything you add to the plan that maybe I didn't cover? I'll grab a sip of water. And our trip plan leads into our packing plan. And so there's two more points of the trip plan that I think are really important. That is number 7 and number 8. What do I need to wear and what do I need to pack? I got in trouble on social media a few weeks ago. I'm always kind of getting in trouble on social media when I said, um, I don't like the phrase cotton kills. So that leads into a conversation about what to wear on our hike. So I don't like the phrase cotton kills because I don't think that cotton kills. I think that poor planning and poor preparation kill. Cotton is not the best material to wear on a hike in a wet environment, but cotton can lead to getting really, really cold and hypothermia, which is then a medical emergency. And so when we think about what to wear and what to pack, it's like this bigger picture to consider, these bigger things to think about instead of cutesy little phrases. It's like, if I make this decision, what are the consequences that that decision might have later on down the road? So that leads into a discussion about what to wear and what to pack. So most of us here have heard of the 10 essentials. The 10 essentials are a recommended list of items to have in the backcountry. They consist of things like navigation tools, so your map, a compass, GPS, sun protection, insulation, illumination, first aid, fire, making supplies, repair kit, nutrition, hydration, emergency shelter, and so on and so forth. I will be the first to admit that I don't always carry the 10 essentials when I go on a simple day hike. If I'm just headed out to my local trails for a little hour-long hike and I have cell service and I'm very comfortable there, I don't always have the 10 essentials. But anytime I'm in the backcountry, like a true backcountry trail, I do carry the 10 essentials. And there's a few things that I add to the 10 essentials. First is a whistle. I always have a whistle. I think a whistle is one of the most undervalued pieces of gear we can have in our kit. Just a simple whistle. A lot of day packs, especially if you have an Osprey day pack, have a built-in whistle. I think a whistle is very important. I also posted an Instagram reel a few days ago about my emergency shelter kit. So here I have an emergency blanket, which doubles as a signaling device. This will keep you warm. A couple trash bags that you can use to make like an emergency poncho, emergency sleeping bag, wrap it around your body to keep warm, and then some paracord. So that's my emergency shelter kit. You can see it's like the size of an iPhone. Does not take up much space or weight at all in my pack, but I consider this one of my essential items. A few other things that I carry. I always carry a knife. I think that is an essential item. That's my toolkit. That's my repair kit. Just a knife, and it's pink. It's cute. I always have some way to start a fire, a lighter, some duct tape, whatever works. And then we can talk about things like some people might consider pepper spray to be an essential item. If you're worried about creeps on the trail, then, pepper spray, right? That's a great lightweight option to protect yourself. Some self defense there, as long as you know how to use it. Don't squirt it into the wind. Um, and here's another essential item for me: my lip balm. I think that's important. And um, and as we're looking at our packing kit list and we're looking at all of these things, there's a few things to be aware of. So, first of all, navigation tools. If you don't know how to use a compass alongside your map, then what good is carrying a compass, right? So, making sure we know how to use all the tools in our kit. When it comes to our first aid supplies, making sure that we know how to use our first aid supplies, making sure that medications are not expired or that we aren't missing any medications or any part of our kit that should be there. um, Illumination, headlamp. I can't even tell you how many times I have gone to turn on my headlamp and my batteries have been dead. So headlamp, like making sure that everything is functioning and working, that we have fresh batteries. Hydration is important. I was reading a blog today about someone who, you know, only carries one way to filter water on a backpacking trip. And I always carry one to two and sometimes even three methods of water filtration because I do not want to run out of water. So that's the 10 essentials. And I would just love to open it up for conversation here in the chat. And if you have something that you would add to this list, what would it be? Or if there's something on this list that you think is a little bit bonkers, what would that be? I would love to just maybe hear what you pack when you go hiking. I'm going to just scroll up through the chat here. Yep, Garmin InReach, amazing. Yes, yeah. And I have had to do, when I've been guiding, I've had to do two medical evacuations from the backcountry. And my Garmin InReach was so valuable because I was able to communicate directly with my husband, who was able to figure out what to do, the situation. And just last summer, I was on the receiving end of a Garmin message when I had a friend guiding a backpacking trip and they needed to evac a very sick participant on that trip. And so I've been on both ends of the one sending the message on the InReach and the receiving end of the InReach. And I think if you have the budget for it, a Garmin InReach Mini is by far what you should ask for Christmas, your birthday, Mother's Day, or just go buy it for yourself because it's really amazing. Yeah, uh, yeah, and food and water for your dog. Yes, I don't have a dog. I'm allergic to dogs. It's really lame, but yes, making sure. And Colts are in. Do we really need bear spray, or is that just hyped up? I think it totally depends on where you hike, what the wildlife activity is, where you're hiking. Um, and making sure you know how to properly use the bear spray. So I would say if you call your local game and fish and say, hey, what is the bear activity like in this particular area where I would like to go hiking? They can give you really good information about bear activity in the area where you're going to hike and whether or not you'll need bear spray. I don't always carry bear spray. Yeah, but if I lived in a place where there were grizzly bears, I would definitely carry bear spray, and everyone in my group would carry bear spray. And if you're headed to our Yellowstone Park, our group trip to Yellowstone National Park in the fall, everyone's gonna be carrying bear spray when we're hiking in Yellowstone, just because it's that important. Um Yeah. Oh, good. You guys already answered this. Kelsey asked, "What water filtration do I recommend?" I have a lot of options. A lot of what I typically use is I love the MSR Trail Shot is my favorite water filter for just one or two people. I love the MSR Gravity filters for a big group. I love my SteriPen. I think it's really cool to use a SteriPen, so that just filters water with UV light. And the other product that I use is Aquamira drops or Aqua tabs. So that's what I like for water filtration snacks. rain jacket, extra clothing. Yeah, poop kit, right? Tissues in a Ziploc bag. Snake bite kit, water, water, water. Um, yeah, we're gonna talk about creeps more in just a second here. Bug spray. Yeah. So I think when it comes to packing, I like to look at my trip plan, like where am I going? What's the weather going to be like? Blah, blah, blah. Then I look at the 10 essentials and then I just fill my kit. I don't follow a prescribed packing list for every hike because that's like the cotton kills thing, right? Like we need to put some thought into it so that we can be prepared. It's not just following a blanket advice from some YouTuber. Instead, it's like thinking about it. So trip plan, 10 essentials, that's a great place to start, and then modify as needed depending on where you're going, what the weather's like, if you're going with a group, blah, 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 blah. All those things really impact your packing list. Okay, one other thing I wanna mention here is I used to be the kinda hiker who was really scared of running out of food, and so I would just overpack food. And I've been really interested in the rule of thirds. So this says that the human body can go 3 minutes without air, 3 hours without shelter in a harsh climate, 3 days without water, and 3 weeks without food. I just think this is fascinating, and I just wanted to mention it here and see if that impacts how you pack for a hike or a backpacking trip. Um, I know that if I were to go 3 weeks without food, I would just be one hangry, hangry, hangry woman. But it's just interesting to think about that. And the other thing I wanna mention here is, shelter. So, you can go 3 hours without shelter in a harsh climate, and I'm gonna kinda twist how we think about shelter a little bit. So a lot of times when I think of shelter, I think about my home, or I think about my tent, or I think about a tarp, or I think about a cave. But clothing is shelter for our body. Clothing is protection for our body. So when we think about shelter and we think about how we're going to dress for that hike, that's also shelter and protection for our body. Just one of those weird concepts that's in the back of my head all the time, but clothing is shelter for my body. But things like a tarp, a tent, that is also shelter too. So maybe shelter from the elements versus shelter for my body. And Charity, I see your question. Yes, I'll do a follow-up email after this event and or after this webinar, and I will share some links to some of my favorites. Absolutely. And we've already kind of talked about what are some essential items that we keep in our pack. We're about 28 minutes in, so I'm just going to keep rolling. Feel free to comment in the discussions there, and we'll just keep moving here. So everyone feeling all right? We are almost halfway through. Deep breath. I'm going to grab a drink of water, and we'll carry on. So the other thing that I want to talk about is we're going to move a little bit from the planning and preparation stage of hiking. And now we're going to talk about the risk management part. And risk management is really, really, really important. It can be a little bit intimidating to think about. It can be a little bit scary to think about. But once again, this is in a safe space and everyone here is supportive of each other. And so let's talk about it. So, when it comes to risk management, I like to do this. This is how I plan risk management for guided trips. I like to think, okay, I'm headed on a hike and I'm going to this certain area, and I'm a little bit nervous about creepy people on the trails, right? We mentioned this earlier before. So to me, on this hike, one of the threats is going to be creepy people. So I separate the threat. I'm thinking about the threat, and then I'm thinking, well, what can I do about it? Because I still want to go on a hike. So in my mind, I think, what can I do to reduce that risk, to mitigate that threat? What can I do so that I can be safe and so that I can feel safe? So when we think about creeps, there's a few things we can do, right? We could take a self-defense class. We could carry pepper spray or mace. We can hike on busy, well-used trails. We could um, trust our gut and practice honing our intuition and trusting our gut, because our gut is always going to tell us when something's wrong. We could also hike during the daylight and maybe not go out early in the morning or late at night. We could bring a dog. Somebody mentioned dogs here, right? We could bring a dog. And if we don't have a dog, we could borrow a dog from a friend. I'm sure we all have friends who have dogs that would love for us to take their dog on a walk, right? Um, we could bring a friend. We don't have to hike alone. Maybe we bring a friend. Maybe we hike with a group so we feel comfortable and safe with those numbers. And we can leave if things just start to get weird out there. I was on a hike. Remember earlier when I said that I hiked every day for 100 days with my kids? I was on a hike, on one of those hikes. I don't remember what day it was, but we were out on an old Forest Service road, and the road was supposed to be closed to motor vehicles. And I had a baby and a toddler, and this day I was pushing my toddler in the jogging stroller, and then I had my baby on with a soft carrier, because I also tried to time hikes during nap times. So my kids were asleep, and I'm hiking down this Forest Service road, just a really nice, gentle hike through the trees. It was gorgeous outside. And all of a sudden, we're hiking along, and all of a sudden, this guy in a pickup truck that was like all rusted out with the windows down and a big slobbery dog, he just drove really slowly past us. And I kind of like the hair stood up on my neck. I knew something like it didn't feel right to me. And I kind of was like, okay, assessed my situation. I was a little nervous, a little scared. And then, and then a few minutes later, he turned his truck around and he came back down the road, and I am not feeling comfortable and safe right now. My gut said, "Rebecca, you need to get the hell out of there." And so I don't know, we were probably a mile or mile and a half from the trailhead, but I just picked up the pace and we just boogied on out of there, because something in my gut was telling me that that guy was up to no good. He was checking me out. He was trying to figure out what I was doing. I just didn't feel right. And I didn't want to stick around and wait until things went south and bad. So I think a lot of times, sometimes I feel like I have something to prove in the outdoors. Like, I have to get to the top of this mountain. I have to do this. I have to do that. And as I've gotten older and more mature in my thinking, I've realized I have nothing to prove. I have nothing to prove in the outdoors. I have nothing to prove as a small business owner. And so, because I have nothing to prove, it's okay for me to turn back when my intuition is saying, "Hey, Rebecca, you should turn back." So I want to just go through, I want to spend a few more minutes going through this risk assessment process with you. So I'm going to mention a few more threats here, things that we all could potentially encounter in the backcountry. And then I want to just pop in the comments and let me know, like, what would you do about it? What would you do if this were to happen or you were to experience this? Okay, so let's talk about another potential threat, and getting lost. Several of you have mentioned in the chat that you're a little bit nervous, a little bit scared about getting lost. So, if we're concerned about getting lost, what are a few things that we could potentially do so that that is no longer a threat, so that that is no longer a risk? Yeah, so getting lost, a very real threat. That is something a lot of us are scared of. So we can have a good plan, right? We can always go back to those basics. We can always go back to having a good plan, being prepared, knowing our route, knowing how to get to the trailhead, knowing how to get home from the trailhead, um, making sure that we're using a map in our planning. I find a lot of lost people on the trails when we're using like user generated trail data. So that would be some apps allow you to like upload your GPS tracks or talk about the trail. And sometimes that information can be really outdated or not very good trail information. And so when we rely on that as a source of the information for our route planning, we might get lost or just not know the route and become really uncomfortable in the backcountry. So using a real map, a real topographic map to plan our routes can really help so that we don't get lost, so that we know the area. And if you want to learn how to read a map, use a compass, use a GPS, we're going to launch our backcountry navigation course and talk about all those things later on in the summer. I'll mention that later. So using a up-to-date topographic map to plan our routes can really help with that. The other thing we can do is tell someone our route, right? We talked earlier about this, making sure that somebody knows our plan. So let's go to the comments and see what everybody's been saying. Yep, map and compass, map and compass. Yep, discussion about dogs. Yeah, right. Yeah, off-leash dogs can be a little bit scary. That's kind of why I carry pepper spray when I go on walks for dogs. I wish I would have made myself tea for this class. Next time I'll bring cocktails. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, all of these things, right? All great responses. So let's move on to chat some more here. One other thing that I think we should all be a little aware of is bad weather. And not bad weather, because I don't really think there's such a thing as bad weather, but weather that might not be safe when it comes to hiking, camping, backpacking, adventure, all those things, right? So here in the Rocky Mountains in the summertime, we tend to get really intense lightning at high altitudes above tree line. In the summer afternoons, right? So lightning is a real threat, and if you've ever been on a guided backpacking trip with me, you know that I've been like, we cannot be, we have to get off the summit before the afternoon storm rolls in. So lightning is a legitimate threat, one we don't always think about. So lightning, what can we do to be prepared for weather risks in the backcountry? So I think, one thing we can do is, like I said before, get off the summit before the storm, know the forecast, know when the storm is going to hit, know weather trends in your area, plan around the weather, and then know what to do if we do get caught in a storm and there is lightning. So nice crouch down position, all of those things. So lightning is, that's a threat we don't always think about. The other thing to think about is another threat, that you might not think about that's real is dehydration. So we can think, okay, what am I going to do about it? So do I have a water filter? Do I have enough water? Do I have some backup water in my car? One thing that we like to do as a family is we have what's called a base camp bag. So in our truck, we have a bag that has extra clothing, extra food, extra water, and extra medical equipment. And so if something goes wrong on a hike, the 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 how it's supposed to work, but how it probably won't work is one adult can scooch back to the truck and get whatever supplies we need if we need them. So maybe having a base camp bag or a plan in place if you run out of water, that's important. I'm going to just pause here and look at the comments here. They have been coming in here really fast. So, oh yeah, yeah. Avenza Maps apps are great. They are. I love Avenzapedia, Avenza Maps, and we do I mention them a lot in our backcountry navigation course. It's what I use, and also the Garmin Connect app. Is it Garmin Connect? EarthMate. Garmin EarthMate is great. A full battery on your phone, paper map. One thing with the map is I always have a paper map, but if you take a picture of your paper map, then if your paper map blows away or becomes disintegrated in the rain or whatever, you have a backup on your phone. So just another quick little tip there. Self-defense classes, yeah, and learn from a qualified instructor, absolutely. Um, I'm wondering if you never again hiked the area where the creepy truck was. I have, but not alone with my kids, with a group. Yeah. Portable phone charger, trust your gut. Oh, that's a good book recommendation. Read The New Superpower for Women by Steve Carr. Okay, I'm gonna have to check that out. Thank you, Marion, for the book recommendation. Phone battery. Yeah, 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 yeah. So when it comes to hiking safety, a few more things I want to mention. First of all, we're all unique. We're all unique. We all have different perspectives. Um, and there's three things that I want to talk about before we finish up here. So the first of all is what do you do when you're scared? What do you do when you're hiking, when you're camping, backpacking, whatever, and all of a sudden you just feel scared? I think it's really important to feel fear. I think fear protects us. Fear keeps us from making poor decisions sometimes. Um, and I'm not a fan of false bravado. If you're scared, it's okay. It's okay. You don't have to pretend to not be scared. Um, and what I do when I'm scared, and this comes back to I was in the army, deployed to Iraq, been a guide, like all of these things, all these times when I've been in situations where I've been very scared, the first thing that I always do is stop, assess my situation, see what's going on, take a deep breath, and then if you're able to talk about it, that's really beautiful. So you can't always talk about it when you're in that fearful moment, but if you're fearing, if there's some anticipation, if there's some fear, if you're anticipating something happening to you, then that's a different form of fear. And then it's good to talk about it. So, my family actually plays a game that we call What If? And we've been playing this game with our kids ever since they were toddlers. And so the game goes like, what if, I'll just give you a scenario. What if I'm hiking alone with both of you kids and I fall and I hit my head on a rock and I pass out and I'm unconscious laying on the ground? What would you do? And my children, who are 9 and 11, would say, "Here's what I would do, Mom. I would pull out the phone and see if we have cell service, and then I would try to call for help. I would blow my whistle. I would see if we had anything in the first aid kit that you could use. I would push the SOS button on the inReach." And so by playing this game, What If, it takes it so a really scary situation might not be as scary because we've already rehearsed worst case scenario as a family by playing the game What If? And that game might not be appropriate if you have children that are very sensitive to those types of things. But I found that my children are very savvy in the backcountry because we've been playing What If, What If, What If to get their brains thinking um, ever since they were little. It just becomes this game that we play as we drive to and from the trailhead. And heaven forbid anything bad would ever happen, but just in case, I feel like my we're prepared. We're prepared because we're not scared of it. We just plan for it. The other thing is our mindset. And I don't know about you, but I have noticed that sometimes if I think something bad is going to happen, something bad happens. And it's not not necessarily an intuition thing, but sometimes I just by dwelling on something negative to happen, something negative happens, right? And so and so it's just this thing where trying to figure out how does this all work and how do I be prepared but not be scared and not have false bravado and all of those things, right? Just things we can think about. And then the other thing I want to mention before we conclude and wrap up tonight is negative people. And sometimes as women, we encounter people in our lives who say things to us like, "It's too dangerous for you to hike. It's too dangerous for you to hike alone. It's too dangerous for you to hike with your children. I I once had a colleague at work who I came to work on a Monday morning and I was so excited because I'd taken my kids snowshoeing. My husband had to work or something, and so I'd taken my kids snowshoeing and we spent like all day snowshoeing and we just had this fantastic time snowshoeing. And I came back to work and I was telling my male colleague about our snowshoe adventure, and he said to me, "I would never let my wife go snowshoeing with our kids without me." And I was like, "What? Are you kidding me? Like, what is this? What?" But I was just shocked, and I've thought about that a lot. Like sometimes we are going to encounter people who say things like that to us. And here's what I do. I just give them my best Katniss Everdeen, and I just embrace my inner Hunger Games, and I say, "Thank you for your consideration." But I don't say, "Thank you for your consideration." I just say, "Thank you for your concern." And then I end the conversation and I do whatever I want because I'm an adult woman and I can make adult decisions for myself. End of story. Okay. So that is my discussion, our discussion on hiking safety. I do want to mention just a few events that we have going on at Hike Like a Woman here this summer, and then we are going, and then I'll hop in the comments again, and we'll answer some questions here. I do need to. I do have about 15 more minutes, and then I need to get off for the evening. So let's talk a little bit about what's going on in Hike Like a Woman lately. I'm really excited because I'm healthy. I'm back. I'm feeling good finally after cancer treatment, and we have a lot of really fun activities planned. And I'm trying to plan events for all budgets. And here's what's going on. So on April 22nd, here, just in a couple weeks, we are doing an Earth Day cleanup. So I would encourage you to grab a trash bag, grab a friend, and hit a local trail and pick up a bag of trash. If you are here in southeastern Wyoming or northern Colorado and you would like to join me for that trail cleanup, we will be meeting at the Vidavoo Trailhead at 10 a.m. We are doing this event in partnership with the Wyoming Women's the Wyoming Women's Trail Crew. So Women's Conservation Corps. Yes, the Wyoming Conservation Corps has a women's trail crew, an all women's trail crew, and I'm very excited to be partnering with them for this event. And then also May 19th through the 21st, we are doing a summit here in Hike Like a Woman, or here in Laramie, Wyoming. So this is a weekend event. We are going to be doing a ton of outdoor education. We're going to talk more safety, risk management. We're going to talk about first aid kits. We're going to talk about how to read a map, how to use a compass, all sorts of things. And we're going to go on a group hike, do some fun things in the area. So if you are looking to get away for the weekend and you want to come hang out with some women here, and it's like our version of a mini conference, except it's not business casual. It's just going to be really fun. And then we have 2 guided trips to Yellowstone National Park this fall. September 3rd through the 17th, we have 2 spots available. September 10th through the 14th, we are all sold out, but we do have a wait list. This is going to be just a camping trip. We are going to be camping, staying at a campground with flush toilets and showers, and then we are going to be doing day hikes into the park. So it's going to be very fun. I'm looking forward to the first 2 weeks in September. It's going to be fantastic. I am headed to Costa Rica here in a couple weeks, and we're looking at planning some Hike Like a Woman trips to Costa Rica, hopefully one in the fall and in the spring, or maybe we'll just do like a new year kind of trip to Costa Rica. So stay tuned. And then I'm very excited about this. June 1st through the 9th, we are doing a Hike Like a Woman trek up to the summit of Mount Kilimanjaro. We just opened up this trip for booking a couple days ago. We have 14 women signed up for this trip already. We have 10 more spots available. This is going to be the hardest hike that I have ever done, and it's going to be just beautiful and memorable and incredible. So you can learn all about our events over on our website at hikelikeawoman.com. Just click that events tab. And if you're part of a women's organization out there and you want to partner for an event, let me know. I'm happy to collaborate and all of those things. So, okay, that is what we have going on in Hike Like a Woman. Thank you for letting me do that brief 3-minute summary. I'm going to hop back in the chat here and answer some more questions. And yeah, okay. So, yeah, okay. Pay attention to interesting, curious, significant characters of things in surroundings. Yes, you remember, absolutely. Kristen asked, what's a good place to find paper maps for your hike? Oh shoot. I know this. Forgive my brain. I will find out and I will get back to you. When I owned an outdoor retail store, I used to order maps from these guys all the time. MyTopo, that is where I get maps from. MyTopo. Also, USGS makes great maps, and you can get USGS maps. You can order them online. We live in a university town, and I can get USGS maps. I just go to there's like a USGS office on campus, and they can print maps too. Park websites. Yeah. So Mara, this is a great question. Do you recommend all trails? And I have a really unpopular opinion, and no, I don't like all trails personally. I have found so much bad information on all trails. I love it. I love the idea of crowdsourcing trail information, but I just don't know that all of the trail information on all trails is accurate and up to date. So I recommend, I like Garmin Earthmate. I like Avenza PDF, or I like Avenza Maps. But I know people who love all trails and use it all the time and have never had any problems. So that is my completely biased opinion. But yeah. Kelsey, she plays the what if game by herself as she's driving to the trailhead. Yeah, it's like when you can take something that's potentially really scary and turn it into a game, then it almost becomes not quite as scary, and it's good to practice and good to rehearse, and it kind of just gets it all flowing in your brain there. And yeah, people definitely project fears on us. That is for sure. All trails of Venza, far out for some national trails. Good. Yeah. What if a good way to practice? Oh, yeah. Not all of us have had military training to empower us. I would say, Deborah, if you feel like that, then maybe what you could do is try to find a local hiking group. That's another way to feel really empowered, is to see if there's a group in your area that you can hike with. I don't have Hike Like a Woman hiking groups, but what I do have, or there is a chapter of Hiker Babes here in my town, and they're very active and extremely supportive. So I would recommend starting with a hiking group. I would much rather die on a trail than die being tripped down my basement stairs by my cat. Oh, yeah. Local and small. And Desiree, yes, I do. I am from Wyoming. I live in Laramie, Wyoming. I grew up in Bozeman, Montana, which is why I'm very excited about our trip to Yellowstone, because we're coming back to my turf. Do you think bear spray is needed in black bear areas? I'm not a wildlife biologist or an expert on bears. It just depends. It just depends. If carrying bear spray makes you feel safe and confident and you know how to use bear spray, then do it. But I would say, like, what is the activity of the black bears? Are they scampering away from people because they're scared of people, or do they see a lot of people so they're not scared of people, so they're coming into camp to eat your granola bars? Like, that's a local conversation, and I would just call your game and fish and see what they recommend. Yeah, an air horn. I've heard about air horns. I don't carry an air horn, but I've heard, like, a lot of my friends that live in Alaska carry air horns. I've also heard you can take a big garbage sack and, like, I don't know, use it like, I don't know. I think of, like, running with the bulls. I know people use, like, a big garbage bag somehow to deter bears. If you know about that, let me know. Maybe I'll do some more research. Mountain lions, growing concern. Have you encountered a situation? I have. I have. So I was hiking with my children, and there was a layer of fresh snow on the ground. And we actually hiked right into a mountain lion kill site. And there was a deer carcass on the side of the trail, mountain lion tracks everywhere, blood everywhere. And I knew that like there was a lion somewhere close, really close, watching us. And so I'm terrified of mountain lions. So I just like grabbed my kids and we just hightailed it back to the car as fast as we could, keeping an eye on our surroundings. I think I had bear spray with me on that hike, and so I was like, I was ready to go. But yeah, mountain lions are a concern. And I used to be really scared of mountain lions, and I still am. But one thing that helped me was to learn a little bit more about mountain lions and to learn about where they live, how they hunt, what they eat, when they're active, when they're not active. And that helps me feel more confident in the backcountry by just having that education. And I went to a local class, and it was about like bears, mountain lions, and wolves, and predators, and just learning helps me be a little more confident. So Diane, yeah, that's my one and only mountain lion story. Um, yeah, Garmin Earthmates. And Molly, yes, I do have a backcountry navigation online class. I'm fixing it up a little bit. We launched it last summer, and I'm making a few adjustments, and I'll send out information on that later. Um, All right. Well, thank you all so much for joining me. Um, I'm, I'm going to try to do these webinars here on a monthly basis. And next month, I think we're going to do a workshop on backpacking. So if you're new to backpacking, that might be fun to join in. If there's a topic that you would like to have me talk about and to cover, by all means, as I said before, hiking is art, not science, and I'm just one person with one perspective. But I'm always happy to start the conversation and get the dialogue going. So if there's a topic you're interested in, let me know. Send me an email, hikelikewoman@gmail.com, drop me a DM on all the socials, and we'll put together a webinar covering that topic. If you're interested in any of our events, just head on over to our website, hikelikewoman.com, and check them out. And I am going to end the stream right now, but I will catch you all on our next workshop. Thanks so much for being here. Thanks for spending time with me tonight. I hope this was valuable for you, and I will see you on our next workshop. Take care. Bye-bye.